And let me just pull it up on the YouTube, just so I can make sure it's. Whoa. Okay. Let's see here. All right, we're 12 seconds into it, and oh, there it is. Okay, here we go. Yes. There's my balding head. Okay. Okay. Welcome, everybody. First show of the day. It's Friday, January the 23rd in La Piñita, Mexico, and also South Africa. That's our connection today. They're quite a few hours ahead of us. Southern Hemisphere, it's the 24th of January. I don't know how everybody else has been doing, but it's been a heck of a powerful few days, and I feel like I just came out the other side yesterday or this morning. A couple of announcements. If you're watching this on Facebook, we're still shadow banned through the 27th. Hopefully they'll loosen us up a little bit. We've been talking about a lot of high frequency stuff. You know, we don't talk about the conspiracy stuff and all that. In that regard, we understand the proper perspective, but we've been doing something right because we've been getting hassled by 2 or 3 of the social media platforms. This is live on YouTube and X, and I will upload this to Facebook in about 2 hours. Thank you for all your continued support and love and contributions that allow us to keep doing this every single day. Today we have a beautiful sister from South Africa, Sorette, who came through the Sisterhood Network that seems to be really reaching out to this platform, and we're very honored and privileged to have all these sisters come on so that they can share the wisdom that has been suppressed all these years, and they know it's time to come out, and we're honored to be and privileged to be able to facilitate and support that. Welcome, Sorette. Welcome to Soulogy. Thank you for coming in and sharing space with us and honoring us with your presence.
Todd, it is my absolute honor to be with you here simultaneously as a physical expression and honoring the presence of your soul in all its dimensional expressions throughout the whole cosmos, as we are meeting each other in time and mostly outside of time, as all that we are outside of time and outside of this perceived physical reality is flowing through us ever so gently and gracefully with every breath that we take. And through doing so, every moment grounding us more fully and coherently into this beautiful, most exquisite expression that we've got the honor to call our home, Gaia. And it is my greatest honor to be here with you. It feels like we've been knowing each other since the moment of creation of the cosmos, which we did. And meeting each other here in the physical expression in this moment, just so that each one of us can witness each other as cosmic beings in a physical body.
Wow. How are we going to top that opening? It's a very powerful introduction. Thank you. I don't know how familiar you are with the program, but I love to ask the question, did you have a real wake-up experience, or have you always been this strange? You know, so many of us are the weirdos. But I have a feeling you were kind of born that way, huh?
In one way I was, yet I choose to say that I chose to forget fully as I entered into this physical expression, because the service of my being is to restore the sovereignty of all of expressions on, within, and through Gaia. And in order to do so, I needed to forget completely so that I can go into the depths of the psyche of humanity to go and see what's lurking there, so that I can be very familiar with how that consciousness shows up. And therefore, there was this gradual experiences of remembering as most of us has been going through over this last 10, 20, 30 years, all in our unique way, all through our own soul's design, so that it can be in most perfect perfection, with seeing just enough what we can see in that moment and then integrate that and fall asleep again, was my experience. And then remember a little bit more and then fall asleep a little bit more. And that whole process over periods started to accelerate until there was moments that the experience was just so profound that I realized, oh, I remember now. I came here to forget and to remember, and that both happened simultaneously. Yeah, so that's how that path has started. And I remember there was a moment, this was about just before the year 2000, if I can give expression in time, in the time continuum in matrix. It's about 2000, and I know there was a whole wave that has awoken before that. But I remember where I saw myself just sitting one morning, and all of a sudden it felt like I was all the particles of the sun. And I knew distinctively it felt like particles because it wasn't, as I experience it now, more in a delicate light form, but it felt like particles. And I was aware that it was sphere-like, and it was as if I was melting in it, and I was it. And I remember so distinctively, I was in that experience for quite some time, not knowing what was occurring, but knowing I had to be present to it. And as I was coming back, if I say come back, it felt like I started slowly becoming aware of my physical form again. And I remember as I was sitting there, fully aware of my body, I thought, what was that? You know, as all of us, we didn't have the language back then, but I just knew it felt like I was the sun. And I didn't have anyone to share that with. So who do you go and share that with? Because those around me, I knew wasn't quite attuned to what I was attuned to. And that very that very way of experiencing that over periods was like that. There was never someone to share it with. What do you say? What do you say? I've just felt myself to be the sun. Who's going to believe you if you need anyone to believe you, actually? But that felt experience, what I've learned over time, is what makes us know who we are, because we've experienced the fullness thereof. And yeah, I think for now, let me just allow that to move through this field.
Yeah, while my computer just went to 1111. Yeah, that's the signal. That's that. It's interesting doing this show all these years, thousands of shows, and hearing the stories and how the. I guess it kind of follows the field of the collective, you know, and it's interesting how much more you pick up. You know, it's not just the words; it's the energy of the person, of the soul.
Yes.
But yeah, you're right. Who do you tell? Well, I think quite a few of us did try to tell people, and most of us got put into the psych ward. A lot of us did. A lot of us went to the psych ward or to jail or different things like that. But what comes through in your story is the absolute nature of it. Like, that's one thing I can say with the people that I've talked to and the experience in my own life, even right up to the last few days. This energy has been amazing. in this part of January. Absolutely incredible to think that at this point in the game, after years and years, any of us, I could be laying in my bed for basically 3 days, wondering what is going on, but knowing that the purging and the peeling and the shedding is more than necessary. It's grace, it's birthing, and it really feels like we're walking on very hallowed ground as we head into the rest of this month in February and the equinox and Easter. That's about as far as I can look myself because it feels so powerful.
Yeah.
But you were mentioning before we got started, you made some reference to the recent energies, and I don't know how far back we go. This month or even the last week, or there's been so many solar flares. The geomagnetic storm we had was the biggest one we've had in 20 years. They were comparing it to the Carrington event in the 1850s. What's your experience been like the last couple of weeks or this month? What are you seeing? What are you feeling?
So if I just for a moment compare it to that very first experience, because after that there was many such experiences, and what I've noticed over those periods is the texture of the light I was experiencing within me started to shift. So that initial experience that felt like particles did the next time it felt a little bit softer than particles, so it started to feel plasma like. And then again periods after that it literally started to feel like just pure, almost fine fibers is the only way I can describe it. Whereas where now it's my system has become so used to receiving, processing, integrating, grounding, that there's this distinctive gnosis that no longer is it a once-off experience, but through practice consistently became a field that I hold, and I think that many of us hold, or that I know many of us hold. So holding a more softer, gentle field right here in the center of our sacred centeredness, in the center of all centers, our crystal heart. In that centered place, this light emanation or light field feels like it's starting to stabilize in its presence. It feels like it's starting to stabilize in its presence and feeling more softly and softly and softly, because we have practiced enough to stay stabilized in that field. And I think that's where our service lies in this moment, is that because all of us can hold our field so coherently and consistently, that we not as much influenced by all the light that's coming in anymore, so that we can be that pure emanation for others to receive as the conduits and vessels and channels and stargates and, you know, instruments and messengers that we are of this very refined Christed light beings that we are. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a wonderful description, and that's what it feels like to me. In fact, it reminds me of many of the sisters over the years would talk about there's going to come a time when we're going to be put to work, and I always thought that it would be the things that that we came in with. A lot of people, most people, when they start to get the downloads, they get some type of life purpose that goes along with, a modality, or they become a practitioner, energy worker. But as we've gone through the end of last year and into this year, it really feels to me like exactly what you said. Because if you look at the world stage and some of those things, and I do this for the work that I do, so I can have more information. I'm not attached to it at all. I notice that the people that are coming on the show, they're not attached to it at all. They're aware of it. They're aware of the ugly stuff, and all that. But they also are aware that they're not just this. This is vital. This is reverent, and this is an honorable, incredible thing. This vessel that we have, but this is not all of us, and that's what it reminds me of. Two things. One, that we are our primary job, so to speak, is to maintain, sustain, and expand our field and continue to connect. And these connections are not just in the old way. They're not just conversations. There's many, many different streams that we're connecting to each other and our brothers and sisters with. Then the second thing is I feel the time is now. It's no more predictions, no more prophecies. Nothing's dictating this. We're dictating this. We're dictating the solar flares. We're dictating these. We've moved up the timeline many times, I think, too. But yeah, it's a beautiful explanation what you said and what you are. Let me ask you this. Several of the sisters that have come on in November and December and now in January have been saying the same thing, which is not out of the ordinary, but I find it very interesting as we head into this part of the year. And they're talking about that it's time to start coming together in the physical, that to start to come together in community and collaboration and co-creation. And to hear two or three of them say it, that's one thing. But to hear several of them say it, to me, it tells me that something's going on. Like we're being positioned around the world, or we're coming together in the physical monads or soul family or what have you. But are you feeling that? Do you have any thoughts on that?
How I experience it is that we are restoring Gaia as the benevolent sovereign steward of our galaxy is my experience. And to do so, each one of us as the vessels of her crystalline expression is allowing for that amplification. And therefore, as Gaia is in her most expanded crystalline body or architecture, just as we are transforming, she's transforming, but she's transforming first. She's transforming first, and she's supporting all of us to receive this light in a way that we can process and integrate it through our beingness. And as each one of us are doing so, her very crystal core, together with the crystal core that's within each one of our hearts, are starting to amplify together. And as we do so, it feels like we've moved through the galactic core, and therefore the center of the galaxy, and all the different planetary celestial bodies that is in our Milky Way galaxy is amplifying for the transformation and transcendence of our galaxy, with Gaia as the body of that. Yeah.
Would you say that, and I know that we as humans, we always want to be different. And that's not what I mean, but it really feels to me, it really feels to me like Mother Earth is the center of it all. That's how it feels to me. And maybe it's because I'm here, I mean, I commune with her on the beach every night. It's been an incredible 7, 8 months. The information that comes in, especially recently, it reminds me a lot of your experience, of the way you were talking about the sun. Because I usually go at night, and of course it's been a lot on the body, primarily the body. And I go out there and I feel like, how am I going to even walk back? And I put my feet in the sand, and I can literally feel the light coming through my feet. I can feel the wisdom and the comfort, and like, okay, you can go on doing this, right? Like, you're 64 years old, you're living in an apartment in a little town in Mexico, and you don't know anybody, and what are you doing? You know what I mean? It's the same thing from all of our years, right? Where you're going, why am I not normal? But then she comes in and speaks, and it's interesting. I had a communion with her a couple of weeks ago, and it was really interesting. And it reminds me of what you're talking about with the sun, because a lot of times if I go out during the day, I obviously work with the sun a lot. And but anyway, I put my feet in the ground, and I was standing up, and because I was instructed, and open your crown chakra, open your lower chakra, and have a channel, which I'm sure a lot of people have done, But this time, I went into the earth and right to the center, and there was a sphere. And that sphere, she told me, this is the core. This is the plasma core of Mother. This is me, And so I came to the edge of the sphere, and I said, well, how do you get in? And she said, just come to the edge and become part of it, right? So it was very similar to what you were talking about. And I feel like that's how it goes, because at that point, you are the drop and you are the ocean. And there's no distinction between the two. You can't, you can't, you're always going to have that individual fractal identity, so to speak, a unique and equal soul, you might say. But the reality is, everything we're looking at is ourselves. And that's what's so cool about doing this show. It's the greatest job in the universe, because it's like, the other person's the same person. They're just shape-shifting it between shows. But the messages the messages and the frequencies are, I can see it. It's not like it has been before. It's a very unified field and a unified bandwidth is what I would say. That is, as she's told me, far greater than anything this world can throw at us. Like, it's no match. It's like they're a fly and we're an elephant. But yeah.
I remember the first time that I entered the crystalline core of Gaia, as you just so eloquently shared with us. Thank you. Deep honoring for your experience and a sovereign witness to that and all that you've been through in that moment, and are continuously weaving through and sharing and emanating through your presence to all of us to receive. Thank you. There was a moment I remember when I was sitting in my study still at that stage, a few years back, when I was still in relationship with my husband, who now passed away. And I remember when I sat there, I also went to sit in the core of Gaia. Didn't know it was the core at that time. And all of a sudden I felt in this place, which I didn't know was the core, and I felt this gentle, loving arms holding me. And in that moment, I simultaneously felt a mother, but I also felt a father. And I was very aware of both simultaneously being there. And in that experience, there was all this light that started to move through me. And it was only during that time that I started to become familiar with consciously having conversations with our, I call them our cosmic parents, our cosmic mother and father. Didn't know who that was at the moment, but in that core, I remember at this stage I already went through a whole journey of acclimating to the very presence of of this presence that I was experiencing within myself. I know there's a lot of souls that connect to different galactic aspects and expressions. I've always had a direct connection with Source and only connect there. And probably because my soul for this moment chose it to experience it like that. And I remember that moment when I sat there in the center. I just felt this warm embrace from both a motherly and a fatherly experience, but it felt like one and expanded. And I remember the words was because that's when I got used to the conscious conversations taking place. And I just heard, just come. And as I was expanding, I kept on expanding. And I just heard this gentle look down. And as I looked down, I knew I was seeing Gaia and simultaneously her core. I saw that. And and there was also this, just remember where you are in your body. And it was so beautiful. So I stayed in my body and kept on expanding and out and out. And she said, look down again. This time it was a feminine voice. Look down again. And I noticed how Gaia just became smaller and smaller and smaller the further out I was expanding. And in that most expanded presence, when I looked down, I almost couldn't see Gaia, but there was the
Oh, I think her. Is that me or her? That's. Oh, there you are. Wow, that was
oh,
powerful.
oh, it's still here. Yeah.
Yeah, you're still there. Yeah, and I. That's crazy because I've had this
Yes.
happen over the years when the energy gets really high. It's not interference. It's our frequency. Keep going, please. Thank you.
Yes. And in that expanded, it also felt like a holding. I knew I was simultaneously held in that most expanded place as well as simultaneously being present in the core of Gaia. And as I looked down and experienced that, there was also, we're going to go back to the center of Gaia again. And that's how I started to get used to and acclimate to different vibrational frequencies and how I felt that in my beingness. Because she made me continuously aware you're in your body, you're in your body. So that it really supported me over time to stay my body when I expand into that. And this was about 4 years ago or so. And I remember distinctively over the periods to follow after that, it was about how do I continuously stay there? And knew in that moment that I had to put that on paper. Because what I've also learned is as soon as I go through experience like that, ground it in the physical. Because now I know as we start accelerating in our, in our evolution and expansion and embodiment of all of this, we forget, the things we want to forget, we don't. That what we want to remember, we tend to forget. So what I've done is I actually put that on paper, and what it was an outline of a body, and there was no distinctive masculine or feminine. It was just a body, and inside of it, I took a koki point, a koki, and I made points, And I've actually just put on the paper what I've experienced. And when I looked back at it, I realized it was all the different aspects of physical expression on earth inside that body. So it was from our our mountains, our rivers, our dams, our people, our homes. It was all of that. And so although it was two-dimensional on a page, there was also a lot of depth that was captured in the single dots, if that makes sense. Only over periods I realized that that was all codes. So it was codes that I received in that expanded moment that I've put on paper. And then around that, I had different, it was more gray and yellow and pink. I remember those colors. And that was the depiction of our Milky Way and all different other galaxies, and then the cosmos as a whole. And from that moment forward, I realized that the whole coding of my being became giving expression to that. And it was a gradual acclimating to the different codes. And so that almost became a depiction of my soulscape, is what I call this inner landscape where I've traveled to. And it has taken all those, years, which is now 4 years, to not only embody and be grounded in that presence, but also to start sharing the codes that was there. Because what I've learned is that if I don't fully understand what this is, I cannot share that yet. And and besides that, who do I share that with? Again, comes back to who's gonna, hear the fullness of that. And I just wanna, by means of just bringing that together to one place, is it was only over this last week with this accelerated light that has been flowing in through the cosmos that I've heard the another aspect of the very codes, because each one of us is encoded through our very crystalline DNA architecture, the codes that we came here to share and emanate and ground. And the the coding of sharing that I received this last week was around shifting into a trinitized beingness, where it used to be, we used to be 275 million years ago. We went from a singular cellular organism to a multiple, and we went through all of the different ages, stages, and phases of our evolution, where we are now. And then we went into many people being aware of duality, but not as a principle of separated from, but the principle of being two, like yin yang is the most simplest way that most understand. And what is moving in and through now is the trinitized presence, the third principle. And so in my experience, what I've heard was our cosmic mother, cosmic father, cosmic child as a trinitized presence, and simultaneously creator, creatrix, creation as one. And as we be in that oneness, we start experiencing the original codes of creation as it was always intended to be. And those codes and those that are here to not only activate and inspire and emanate and ground that is those that is currently giving expression to the sovereign nature of creation and the original intention of creation to experience ourselves as sovereign cosmic beings of light that we are, supported fully by our crystalline architecture that is gradually remembering all of that too. And to, and I think that is why we are called together, so that we can be in that trinitized expression as well. So when three of us come together, there's a different amplification that starts to occur, and those three are each one in their oneness in those aspects. And then something else starts to occur.
Wow. Yes. And you feel that, or your experience was that this kind of fully came in the last few days. Like this
Feels that way?
Yeah, no, I have to say yes. Even though I spent almost 3 days, I spent about 18 hours, 3 days in a row, laying in the bed in the dark. But it wasn't all uncomfortable. It was there was a lot of feelings, as we all know. We go through things differently, but it felt like it was like a communion. It was like it was just me and the universe, and it came to a head last night. Like I said, I went to the beach as I usually do, and by the time I got there, I got dizzy, and I had to sit down, and I looked to my right, and it's such a beautiful, authentic town. It's not commercialized. And I looked to my right, and there's this beautiful family of like 6 or 8 people, and they have a fire, and the little kids are popping these harmless fireworks. And normally I would be like, oh my God, look at that, but I was in such a bad state physically. I thought, what is going on? And it's similar to what you were talking about. I started to understand and get the message, because on the left there was another thing playing out. There was a couple, lovers over here, and in front of me was, of course, the ocean and the mountains, surrounded by the mountains, and it was an incredible transmission. I thought I was going to die at first, but then it started to come in like what you're talking about, which was everything was like, it was almost like my body expanded outward and was feeling everything beneath my feet, the ocean, the mountains, the birds were cooperating. That's normally what happens when I go out there. When I start to get connected, then they'll come and show me. But yeah, it just feels like, there's a strong narrative or belief or argument that the real year starts on April the 1st. And there is historical evidence, that's connected to what they call April's Fool's Day and all this stuff. But it feels like that we're really getting, the final pieces kind of purged out. We're getting ready for, like I know this has happened in the cycles of the previous years, but this feels totally different. This feels like, to me, like we're hitting the illusion head on, like it's coming right at us. But again, like I said before, this force that we are, this trinitized energy, that is the type of energy that serves me, serves you, serves the collective equally. It's all one and the same thing. All the armies, all the weapons, all the whatever in the world has no chance at all against this power. And the other thing that feels, even with all the propaganda about ETs and extraterrestrials and all the stuff that's thrown in our face, but what we know from our own connections, there's a lot of support here. the elementals, the angelic, the galactics, and beings and off-planet, off-universe beings, that primordial beings, nature beings. There's a lot of support here. And it's amazing because as much as we've all been through and how mundane it can be to be a human being when you consider all the other multidimensionality, we're leading the way. We're actually leading the way. And that's an honor. You know, that's a really incredible honor to be in this aspect of primarily of our consciousness, you know, in the physicality. To be doing it in this body is mind-blowing, because there's so much potential that we're just tapping into now. Things that we thought were supernatural or paranormal or magic or alchemic, and actually it's all of those things, miraculous, and we actually carry this. I mean, we've moved into a new era. You know, we really have. And I think we're going to see evidence of that very quickly with people.
Yeah. So what's so beautiful to me is that we have the greatest honor as the cosmic beings of living light that we are, to not only experience ourselves in a physical body and to give expression through this body, but also be a witness to all the transformation that is occurring around us simultaneously. And just to share an experience, for example, over this last 6 months only, if I can only take this time frame, there came a moment where I drive. So I live in a small little village that I moved to. I used to stay in Johannesburg, which is quite a hectic place of energetic siphoning that has occurred there. So I choose to awake there so that I have insight into, you know, all the consciousnesses that is not in their full awareness yet, and on the one side, and the other side, all the siphoning that is occurring, to become aware of that. So I moved from that place to where I am now in this small little village, and I'm surrounded by mountains. So the position I'm sitting in right now, he has mountains behind me and to the sides of me, and in front of me is the very southern oceanic realm of Gaia. And when I go to get some food, I need to travel on this most exquisite path. And since the first time that I moved into this area and been driving there and back and there and back, I started becoming aware of how, as I drive there, my very crystalline expression and beingness and all those bodies that is weaving through me is also doing so through the mountains and through the ocean. So it almost feel like we're in this co-weaving as I drive there, and then when I drive back, the mountain that was on this side now moved to this side, and the ocean that was on this side now. So I'm you know, weaving that again, and I've been weaving and weaving continuously through that road specifically. And also during that time when I walk, it feels like I walk through the mountains and through the ocean. And as I have been doing that, I started remembering more fully and more fully, as all of us are, through the, you know, the pace at which we have so eloquently already designed it to be. Just enough light to receive so that that can be woven into there where we are too. And I think that is what is really strengthening the very energetic emanation, not only of us, but also the land and the waters as we move through wherever we are. And what I've noticed is that each one of those aspects, and I am also starting to have this conversations as my, if I say the presence of my being connect with the very cosmic mother, father, child expression in those aspects as well. So that has really supported me to integrate my body of being and understanding of how all of that weaves together, but also our interconnectedness with all that is in physical expression. And why I'm sharing that is what I've then remembered more fully is that each one of us as a soul has been there the moment the cosmos were created. In our trinitized presence of the cosmic mother and father. And all that was created is creation. So the physical expression in form. And as a soul, therefore, remember, I'm just sharing what I've experienced. So as a soul, therefore, all the subatomic architecture of all that is through liquid expression, vapor, solid, and all the elemental properties that has moved out from that moment the cosmos were created, and the heat thereof, we were that. And as we moved through and all the stars started to form and all the planets started to form, our consciousness has moved through all of that. And then at some stage when it all started moving together and formed this Milky Way galaxy, and in that galaxy being the inner and the outer planets that is weaving and circulating throughout our solar system. And we've moved through all of that. So our consciousness has moved through all of that. And then when Gaia started to form, there we were, forming, moving through all of that. And we moved through the very waters. We moved through all of the plants. We moved through all of the fishes and all other animals that has formed in the ocean. And when they started to move out of the oceanic realm and started to live on Gaia, we moved through all of that as well. And through doing so, realizing we are the consciousness that has moved through all of creation, together with our cosmic mother and father. So the trinitized presence that we are has moved through all of that. And therefore, all the different universes and galaxies in our solar system that we've moved through is here within us. And I remember the very first time when I went to that very center of moving through all of that, I started seeing Gaia here at the root of my being. And then I started feeling our very moon here at my, my womb area. And that's where I also experienced the sun here in my solar, literally. And then the expression of all of that through my heart. And all of that consciousness that is within us, and therefore also weaving through our crystalline architecture that's there, is allowing for us therefore to be in physical form. Because all that wisdom that we've traveled through into this beingness that we are as a soul, we experience now that aspect of experience ourselves in physical form and being a witness to the transformation of our bodies and all other bodies. And as we do so, the very crystalline core and essence of all the plants, all the animals, all the minerals, all the crystals is also going through this very most sovereign and pristine transformation. All of us are experiencing this together. And we are receiving that transformation that all of the minerals and elements and plants and crystals and waters and air and, all the elements and all the elemental properties, all of that is happening within us. So when we speak about alignment, it's our inner alignment and knowing ourselves as that is appearing and being experienced by us and witnessing that in each other. And the more we share it with each other, we can just bow to the very grace and the miraculous nature of the very cosmos that we are. And to experience ourselves like that, wow, what an honor.
Yes, that's very well said. That there's so much to what you said. As I'm listening to you, I'm just reflecting on my life these last few months and weeks, and I wouldn't be able to explain it the way you have, but I've experienced this every day now. I like to cook, and that's part of my day, to cook a meal, prepare a meal. And, it's just one person, but there's a whole different connectivity now. There's a whole different connection now. Yesterday, I went and got 2 avocados and 3 tomatoes and some homemade bread and a couple of other things. And I had a late show, in between shows, so I ran back and I'm making the sandwich. And as sure as I'm sitting here, we do this. I mean, I'm talking to the avocados, I'm talking to the tomatoes, I'm talking to the cilantro, I'm talking to the bread, and it's like it was like, I guess, like, when you tap into a person or you merge with a person, because I was seeing the tomatoes' whole life. I was seeing the avocados grow in a tree, but I was also. It was also, that's kind of a funny example, but when I go to the beach every day, part of this initiation or indoctrination, sitting here all these months with her, has been a gradual evolution of understanding that everything I'm looking at is me. But a couple of months ago, I was told, everything is in you, truly in you. And I know we've heard this before, but truly I was being told, go inside yourself. If you need to tap into the morphogenetic field or the Akashic record or whatever it is, whatever planet, whatever. And so as this is happening inside of me, I'm seeing the congruence outside of me. So I'll give you an example. I went to in the middle of all this about 3 or 4 days ago, I went to the beach one night and I was just like, what is going on, And I sat there and I was in communion, and all of a sudden there was a light above my head. And I'm looking up like, what is that? You know how you try to look up and see what the light is, but it's still behind you? It's a blue-white light. I've seen it before. It comes in sessions and communion sometimes. And then I heard what's Pleiades. And I can't see very good. And I look up and I can see a little fuzzy little cluster, but I can't see the stars. But I knew that was Pleiades. And then it went from there to Orion, to Aldebaran. And these have been big in my life. They show up, and I didn't know they were there. And then again, just like the tomato and the avocado, it showed me the whole history. My history, its history, and I was like, well, why am I being shown this? And it was like, it's a signal, like somebody shot a gun off in the air and said, go, start, that it was some type of indicator that we had reached a space that we marked with remembrance, that in our remembrance, we would have the signal to ourselves that, it's turned on now. And so that was incredible. I even took pictures of it, with my, with like the AI on the phone. I was like, this is where I'm sitting. Show me what it looks like, because I think I haven't seen these. I've seen Orion's belt, but I haven't even seen that in a long time. And Aldebaran I hadn't seen since June the 1st. And anytime it comes around, something big's happening. But that was the message. The message was like a click, like this is a signal. It started now. This is why you all came. The time has come. This is what you came for. And so that's, to me, that's really exciting, because as you were talking about, like, who do we tell and all this stuff, and, and I've gotten messages and emails over the years, and people will say to me, oh my God, I love the show, because I thought I was the only one. I don't have anyone to talk to. I feel like I found my family. So just to know that there's people out there that have been listening to that still small voice, which isn't really small, but that we all followed through its craziness, telling us to do this and do that, and and people are going, "What's wrong with you?" But to actually be in a space now where it's getting an expanded awareness, a shared mutual awareness, and recognition and acknowledgement that these things that we listen to are an endless, infinite spring of wisdom and memories and virtues, and it's really coming to a point where the lid's flying off. Like it's not going to wait any longer, and I feel like that's probably why you see more and more distortion. Like it's like they're getting desperate, but there's no chance. This is bigger than all of us, but it's all of us. And so these individual physical human experiences are nothing to make light of. This is ground zero. Your experiences as you drive into the town and the mountains and the oceans there, my experiences, these individual experiences are the biggest thing happening on the earth, you might say. Because remember, this isn't a linear realm anymore. This, to me, it's not even quantum, it's beyond quantum. But the fact that we're all quantumly entangled, that's, like to the point now, like I've been here 3 months, and I live with a couple of spiders in the bathroom. I can't hurt them. I can't move them out. I have a little cucaracha, a little roach that lives underneath the kitchen sink, and I one day, because I found them a couple times, and I told them, hey, don't come out here. I'll put something down there. I don't want to see you. It's okay if you live here, but so one day I came in after 2-3 days or mornings or whatever, and I saw him. So I thought, you know what? I'm just going to gently grab him with a towel, and I'm going to put him outside. And that's what I did. That's the last time I'll ever do that. And I'll tell you why. I put him outside. He was fine. I closed the door, my patio. The next day, I look out there, and he's dead. And I thought, oh, my God. Like, you know what I mean? Like, this is how intricate it's getting. This is how, it's like people talk about walk the talk. Look, I'm looking at a mirror of myself, period. That's it. There's no more in between anymore. You can say these people back here are not awake, or they're not tapped in, or, but there's only really two ways. It's either that way that we've experienced and witnessed, or it's this other way where we're all in 100%. There's no more doubts. And there's something about that choice that is bringing on higher skills and abilities and higher sensitivities. And I think it's being exponentialized by the collaboration and the co-creation that's occurring. And the sisters have led the way. It's crazy. I was getting to the end of December, that period last month. It was like the period we just had this month. which was a 3-eye atlas, and then the next day was a new moon, the next day was the solstice. And so I sent out a bunch of invitations, and the next thing I know, I think it was 11 or 13 shows in 4 days with all these tapped in sisters. Just one right after the other. How did that happen? Well, it just happened. I didn't plan it that way. They just said, I'll do it at this time, I'll do it at this time. And I looked at it, and they were all there. And what I noticed was, and even since then, that they all know each other. Like, how many of these sisterhood, soul family cells, or, groups or whatever, how many of them are all over this world? Like, there's got to be hundreds, thousands, I don't even know, but and there doesn't even have to be that many because of the level of the work that they're doing. So that to me is kind of where I see things in terms of where I'm standing. My piece of the puzzle is I can see now from about November that the feminine in us, the feminine of the world, the mother, however you want to put it, at this point is starting to come out and speak and be seen, which tells me that we've reached a level of alignment, and you might even say safeguard, support, that she, our feminine, you, us, whatever is comfortable now to come out in this world that has been pretty rough up to this point. Wow, that's a pretty door. Yeah, so it's a powerful time, and here's the other extraordinary thing. I've been doing this since the soulogy since 2012, and I've always watched the demographics, the metrics, like the how many females to males, and it started out about 95% females, 5% males, and you probably know this, I'm sure. And then over the years, it kind of got, closer. It was like 70-30. And do you know that from 30 days ago, around the same time I'm talking about, something extraordinary happened. I even I showed it the image on a show the other day. In the last 30 days on the soulogy platform, it didn't drop to like 60-40 from 70-30. It went to 55% male and 45% female. And that's extraordinary, because that to me speaks to kind of what I've experienced toward the end of last year and into this year, which was this masculine part of me that was really purging stuff out like brutally, and again in preparation. And I feel like that we're going to start seeing that, if we haven't already, in the brothers out there, which is unprecedented and hasn't been that way before. We've had some representation in these groups, but there was still a lot of work to be done there. So to me, that's exciting. And again, that's another sign of what you experienced that you just were talking about, where the mother, father become a single, sphere, right? Another indicator of the trinitized energy taking hold, because just like in this exchange, there's you, there's me, but then there's something that we've created in the middle of it all. I mean, it's a true. I read this thing about that Rumi wrote a long time ago, and he basically said, he was talking about the coming together of a man and a woman in the physical, and that any time that these energies, doesn't have to be in, these energies come together, that a third energy is born. And he was basically saying in this piece he was writing, he was basically saying that every one of them is sacred and honorable and pure, and to be conscious of what's created between the two. And I feel like that really speaks to the trinitized energy too, because it's more than just the two people, or if it's a group. It's actually like a lot of the work that the sisters share on this show, which is when they do work with their sisterhood of, say, 8 or 12 of women, they're doing it for the whole earth. They're doing it for the whole collective. And that's a big, to me, that's the really the litmus test for, is this Trinity energy, to be at that level of service, which is really the best thing you can do for yourself, and obviously the best thing we can do for the collective. So it's extraordinary how fast it's moving. Thank you.
That was a mouthful.
I guess it was. I don't
Just
know what.
deep honoring for that.
Yeah.
Thank you. Just deep honoring for that first part that you shared about your communion, when you're on the beach and how you connect to that aspect that's reflected around you and experience that within you. And then also sharing all those statistics that you've noticed around the masculine and the feminine gender expressions that is on your show. And a beautiful experience that I had was, I remember somewhere I've heard that with every incarnation, we are, I'm now speaking before a fully awake, ascended expression that we are. Before that, when we were still in the process of remembering who we are, and there was still this looping of incarnations that was occurring, which is now no longer going to occur because of all the work that we've been doing over this last 10, 20 years to ensure the sovereignty of all aspects of creation. And therefore, there's this knowing that previously with incarnation, that the previous gender that you were, you came back in the next gender. So if you were male, you came back as a female expression to be present with those aspects of your masculinity that you still need to, to heal, to integrate, to fully transcend that consciousness. And that is also shifted now. And I think that is perhaps one of the reasons why there's a more equal representation in gender expression. And as we do so, to remember that we are always only our trinitized presence, and that there will come times that as we see each other as souls, we also see each other as that trinitized expression. And I remember when my husband was still alive, I remember I was looking at him and I could just not see his soul's expression. All that I saw was this human expression. And I knew that was just all signs given to me, to be present to those very aspects that was reflected to me. And just for a moment, deep honoring for each one of us during those periods, showing up in those specific ways in service to the very partner that we were fully present to. And I remember the evening that he passed away. It was within a minute that I felt him next to me, putting his hand on my arm and says, "I'm here now to support you from my cosmic beingness." And how that relationship has shifted and supported me to see, as I look at others, their human and their cosmic perspective simultaneously. Where first it started, I could only see the human expression, and now gradually, as we moved through ascension, an embodiment of all the principles that we have ascended and therefore grounded into our way of beingness, how that has really transformed to see others, from that trinitized beingness that they are. And maybe a way to share how I experience it. So previously, when I looked at others, I saw humans in front of me and all the different, life experiences that all is going through, and the relationships not only that I have with them, but they have with each other, and just being aware of all of that, where the not only awakening and ascension and embodiment, but the realization that the center of all of that brings me back to that field that I've expanded to initially, is knowing that because that's who we are. As cosmic beings, we are light fields that is emanating out through the whole cosmos, each one of us. That's who we are. We are cosmic light beings, emanations of all sounds and all colors that has ever existed, and all those consciousnesses that we have moved through to come into beingness. And the essence of that, the very core and center of that expression that's here in our sacred crystal hearts, that is what keeps our field expanded out. And that's how I started experiencing it. It's almost as if that initial experience of the sun that I had, that 2000, so this is 25 years ago, that almost now feels like walking like that, if that makes sense. It feels like the sun field that is grounded in the center, and simultaneously in all dimensional directions around, in a spherical form, being that. And I think what is important for us as we experience ourselves as that, to not only stay in our own field and not being entangled with others, purely so that we can ensure the sovereignty of each one of the fields that we come in contact with and that which we are anchored in, but to become aware that as that field, all the fields that is around us and in the collective field, those fields all, it almost feels like this, this dance that is weaving like this, and together it forms this experience that all of us are having. And in the center of all of that is Gaia, and she's holding all those fields in her core. So in her core also, cosmic mother, cosmic father, and Gaia's cosmic expression and her field. And that experience, I now see my human aspect almost just like this, this human body in the center, experiencing that. I don't know how to give expression to it differently. So I'm very aware that remember, we've got 74 trillion cells. And in the center of each one of those is this same crystalline essence that's in our crystalline heart. So we are connected to all of those cellular centers and the crystalline essence thereof. And that becomes our field. And that field is the very sovereign magnetism that brings this material into forming a body. And it does so effortlessly. We don't have to think about, today I'm going to focus to ensure that my liver stays my liver. My liver knows to be its liver. And that for me is where the wisdom lies, that each organ within us, that we know ourselves to be, a biology, but to experience our cosmic nature through that biology, and all of that weaving as one. And in that, the whole cosmos is also experiencing ourselves as that. So simultaneously experiencing ourselves as our cosmic beingness that we are, and all the spheres of each one of the cells, and our biology being emanated by that very cosmic essence and expressions of our being. Yeah.
Yes, that really resonates too. I was telling you about, I was told to go seek self-source and go in. Don't go look out there anymore. Go in here. This is our reflection, but you'll get you'll be more self-reliant and more self-accountable and more self-aware if you go inside. And I was specifically guided to go to my organs. And it's exactly what you said. So I went to my liver, I went to my heart, I went to my kidneys, I went to my lungs, and each one of them had something to say. Now, some of it was, you need to keep eating beets every day, something like that. But what surprised me a little bit was the information it was giving me that was of the nature that you're talking about. Cosmic data, lineage, memories, and yeah, they weren't a biology. They were more like having emerging with a planet or a star or some type of external energy or entity. They were in themselves kind of like a universe. I'm still playing with it. I've done it 2 nights. I haven't done it again. But yeah, there's like they were. And the crazy thing is, right before this happened, I've got into the habit now where, like everybody here, I don't have a refrigerator full of stuff. I just go down to the town and decide what am I going to make today, like they do in the old days, right? I love it. And I was right before this happened. It was right before that crazy period started about a week ago. Not crazy, but I mean, the high energy. And I don't eat a lot of meat. I eat meat, but I eat mostly produce and my protein with avocados and such, but I like meat every now and then. So I'm walking down the street and I heard, you need to eat some liver. And I said, what? So I went into the butcher shop and I said, do you have liver in Spanish? And he said, yes, it's right here. How much do you want? I'm like, okay, well. So I had to come home and Google it and figure out how to cook it and prepare it. And oh my God, it was incredible. But the next 3 days, and it was, and my body evidently needed it, I guess, for the iron or whatever the attributes of liver are. And but the next 3 days, I didn't eat. I fasted, and I didn't even know I was going to fast. It literally just came like that. And some of these transmissions with the organs of my body came in then. The bloodstream came in, the nervous system, particularly the spine, the fluid of the spine came in. But it was like I remember there was a movie years ago, and it was a movie where I think there was actually a remake too, because I think there was one when I was a kid. And so they had like a submarine. They put these people in it. They shrunk them and they put them inside of a man's body, right? And as they traveled through the body, it looked like a universe. All these lights and these thoroughways and just different things. And that's what my experience has been so far with this exploration of my body. It's not like I've scanned my body before, and I think a lot of us have done that. This is different. This is like I'm in a little machine and I'm driving through my body and stopping and So I don't know that the saying in the sacred books all these years, go within, go within. Yeah, but there's something different going on now. Like all these things that we've read and learned, there's a whole different thing going on now because we're actually experiencing it, we're living it. And it's a whole different technology. It's a whole different language. It's a whole different geometry. Yet, like one of the guests said yesterday, it's new, but it's really old. We've always had it. We've always had it. So, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that. The explorations through our soulscape, our body. I think for me, 2 things is important. The first thing is that when we start exploring and realizing all those different aspects that's within us, and all the guidance and messages that we are receiving, to ensure that those are aspects of self and not of a other being. And I think I remember the very first time when my very first interaction within the soulscape of my being was with a blue being, and my very second interaction was with a lion. And I had to learn over those periods as I started communing with those aspects. I always called in our cosmic mother at that stage, and asks, why am I seeing this? And that's for me is how my communion started and strengthened, and that relationship continued to be my guiding light, so to speak. Because I at some stage when all of that has acclimated through me, and I you know got used to it on a physical level, what was you know all the experiences and all the guidance that was within me. And when I started interacting with others to start sharing that in, as you call the between sisters and brothers, and so I also became aware that there's other beings being channeled, so to speak. And I had to go through that period to really teach me about discernment, to really discern what am I resonating with, and what am I out of alignment with, or not resonating with, or not in harmony with, because all of that is just indications that it is not mine, so to speak. So it's not part of my soul's essence and expression, because that is in the first place how beings were able to siphon anything, you know and don't want to repeat any of those stories because we're done with that. But I think it's important, as our collective is starting to awaken and ascend. I think that's where some of our service lies, is for people to know, to be self-sourced in their sovereignty, so, and therefore have their own direct connection with the source of all of creation in its trinitized expression, and to know that anything that doesn't feel, look, experienced as in resonance with, that is the sign. That is the sign. It's not yours. And to much how we in the old have learned how to be in relationships that we didn't harmonize with, or there was some energies there. It's much like that, but in a different way now, and how energies or fields around us to not enter, to ensure the sovereignty of our own nature and our own expression and our soul, and our I call it self soul source synthesis. Those three, again, the trinitized principle, weaving and breathing as one, and anything that's outside, to not allow that to enter our fields. So I think that's really important to ground here. And then secondly, what I've experienced with my different organs as my cosmic soul's expression started to weave through each one of my cells, and therefore each one of my organs in their own toroidal fields. The importance of what you are sharing is not only to listen to the guidance of each one of those places within us that needs this or that or the other. Not only that, but also to ensure that which is not in resonance. So if there's any aspect of a cellular organ that is not in resonance with its true nature and in alignment with our soul's essence, that is where that ailment will show up and guide us to eat a piece of liver. Not only to eat it, to go all the way to the shop to go and get it, and to read up how to make it. So that is really being so attuned to what your body need. And for me, that's the ultimate expression of self-love. Is really not only to be in communion with our cosmic mother, father, and our trinitized presence, but the love that we give to this physicalized being and that which we have transcended. And that's where our ID, ego, personality, all of that, which we thought ourselves to be then way back and now have transcended, to remember that aspects of that is still here. And as that comes up, as we are integrating all this light that we are into those aspects, as we transform and transcend that, the one thing for me is love, self-love. And to know as we love that aspect of ourself, whether it is a physical ailment or a emotional experience that we are having, or some kind of thought, all those elemental bodies of beings that we are, that transcendence and unification, to know ourselves as one body, that holding, that self-love is the love of our cosmic mother, father, and us unifying, and to be that oneness, and knowing that each one of those aspects within us, we are there together as one trinitized presence in each one of those aspects. And and that the depth of that love, that is true love.
Yes, and it's like everything that you said is and there has been an evolution. First of all, how does it feel? I've had the blessing of always questioning every voice I've ever heard, you might say, except for I know when the mother's speaking. Like when the mother speaks, you just do what she tells you. It's the mother, father, whatever you want to call it. But anything else I question, which has been interesting with what we're talking about in terms of going within the body, because what I'm finding is the intelligence is in my body. It's out here as a reflection. So if I'm living in a time when technology is taking hold, or off-planet intelligences are on the peripheral, or we're seeing UFOs, or that's a reflection of what's happening inside of me. It's not that I have to be in tandem with the technology. I'm the technology. So when I go back into going back to the example about the body, because I don't remember a lot of this until we start talking about it, but I do remember specifically being with my liver, and it was a temple. And so as I went to the other parts of my body, I saw they were temples. Just like we would see a temple here in Sedona or Egypt, or, it was a temple. Temples that I had, temples I visited in my third eye and in dimension many, many times in my wake up, or especially in the early wake up years. But so that was a big part of the message was, and in fact, the way this kind of started, and it didn't happen all at the same time, is I was exploring my body, and this would have been about 2 months ago, maybe 3 months ago. And I was, I guess, scanning my body, or something happened. My soul took me there. I don't know how to explain it. And I had 2 leftover implants. I had one in my lower chakras, and I had one on the top of my head. And then I kind of said, okay, what do I do about this? And I went to work, and things were shown to me. But this was a bit different. This was going to these organs and sitting with them. I don't know how else to say this, but, I don't know how to say this. But if the body collective, whether it's my body, it's made up of 7 parts is kind of what I got. And each one of them had a temple. Each one of them had information to give me, wisdom to give me. And so I can't be the only one. I mean, I've noticed the way the animals respond to me in the last 2 or 3 months. There's a lot of dogs that run around on the streets here, and they're all friendly. Or the birds. I'm sitting at the beach a few nights ago, and these 2 birds, big birds too, seabirds, they flew right in front of me and sat next to me. I'm going, and
Exactly.
And I looked at him and I said, I know I can hear you. And they were communicating with me. And I've had this happening more and more and more. I've had it happen a lot with
Yes,
cats. There's not as many cats on the streets here, but when I walk through the streets, like it
yes.
happened last night. I'm walking and I see a little figure, and it's kind of dark. You know, there's a light here, light there, and I can see it. And I couldn't tell what it was, but I knew it was a cat. And it was because it was doing the same thing they've all been doing the last 2 or 3 months when I walk by. They just stand there and they look at me. You know, normally as
Yeah,
you approach, they're going to run off, but they'll just look at me like I see you. You know,
yeah,
so
exactly.
there's a lot coming into the field that's affecting. Of course, in the human linear experience, it's how well prove it. You can't prove it scientifically, but I think we're getting to a point now where the science is going out the window because you just can't argue with it.
Absolutely.
Like, how do you explain that? Well,
Yeah.
it's happened. It's right before your eyes, and so I think that's really a big part of what's happening this year, especially with the women and the feminine voice coming out, is the thing that we talked
Mm.
about earlier, where people are saying, "Oh, that happens to you." I feel like there's a lot of people on this planet, a lot more than we think, that have had paranormal, psychic experiences, out of body experiences, visitations, and either they've blocked them out because it was too much for the human, or they haven't, and they just didn't tell anybody. But regardless, that common experience or that type of experience is very common to all of us, really all of us, and that's going to open up a
Absolutely.
whole new thing. I can't believe that.
Absolutely.
I can't believe that we've. It's already been an hour and a half. It's already been 90 minutes. It feels like it's been 20 minutes. What a
S-
incredible, and
So,
it's so interesting too to watch you, because when we started, the sun was up behind you, and I'm like, wow, the sun's still up in South Africa. And then as the show's gone on, it's turned that blue dark, into the night. It's been a wonderful
mm,
experience. Thank you very much.
yeah, yeah. So I just want to touch on, first of all, thank you for sharing all of that. And I think there's three things that is really important. And the first one is through all the sharings that we are doing with each other, we are normalizing what it means to be a divine human. And I think that's very important, because the more we talk about it, the more normalized it becomes as we ground it. The second thing is that everywhere that we are grounding the very essence and expression of our being. So, and we can call that our gateway work, our light language expressions. All of that is in a process of grounding an experience. And as each one of us are grounding that experience, we are also stabilizing our collective field. And then thirdly, I love what you shared about the cathedral, because ultimately I also see the whole cosmos as this huge cathedral, this very holy place where our original codes of creation and expression and how all of that was formed is formed in this very place. And therefore, everything that we are starting to experience within ourselves, and you are talking about the seven cathedrals, and each organ can be a cathedral, and each energy center can be a cathedral, and each cell can be a cathedral. And I remember when you talk about the seven cathedrals, and I'm not sure to which specific one you refer to, but it reminds me. I remember the first time when I saw our energy system. I also saw seven, energy centers, and what has really supported me to just ground you know, the cosmic light of my beingness within me, was I saw that in each cell, those very same 7 energy centers are. And therefore, the multiplication of our cathedral essence, so to speak, is also in every cell. And each cell has also got, you know, a crown to a root and all the different energy centers. And all of those cells, so the root of every cell is synchronizing and harmonizing with the root of our physical body, which is harmonizing and synthesizing with the root of Gaia and all people. And then the same with all the other energy centers within us. So ultimately, our whole energy center is this crystalline core in the center of the toric field of our being, and you know, and the same for all of our cells. So as we are feeling the synthesis of that within our bodies, that is the very thing that we are grounding for others as well. And what others are experiencing are grounding for us to experience. And so we are sharing and therefore emanating the, you know, the gnosis of that out to all, so that we normalize it, so that everybody can see, oh, that's what I've experienced, and know that it's normal. To make it easier to get to this, you know, this place within them where they truly come to experience themselves as the cosmic beings that they are, and we all are, in our trinitized presence.
Yes. Yeah, it's like the opposite of a herd mentality. It's just it's like if we, you know, everything has been designed, you might say, to keep us away from finding ourselves. So if that's the case, then we're not going to see it in other people. You know, because that's the whole comparison competition thing. But this is actually,
Yeah.
my friend calls it this too, and I used to call it the same thing, and I didn't know he called it the same thing. But the golden thread, you know, the mother's golden thread, like it's in every single thing. It's, you know, it's like if there's a lot of plastic in the world, and and I know that for me the number one thing is water. So if I'm going to have a bottle of plastic, water in a plastic bottle, I do it with conscious integration. I do it understanding that the golden thread runs in everything. It's just a matter of the propaganda and illusion that's been presented. And so I look at it and I know this is the mother, and I know it's nourishing. And I also address the plastic, you know, and it's, you know what I mean? So this is a level of intelligence that's happening. And I was told a lot last year that very soon, and as the days go by, the things that we used to worry about, we won't even think about anymore. Like there's such a shift coming in. And of course, nobody really knows exactly what that's going to be like. But to me, as the days have gone on this year, since the solstice anyway, it's intelligence. Well, that's the only word I can use. It's intelligence. You could say it's light, and light is information, light is love, but it's an intelligence that has its own communication, its own geometry, its own colors. I mean, people have been talking about off-planet colors coming on. I go to the beach at night when the sun's still going down, and I'm seeing colors that are just crazy. You know, it's just crazy. Or I see colors in the water. It's not every night, but I've seen these colors in the water. A blue that's been very prominent. And so,
Absolutely.
yeah, there's definitely something going on. We should do this again if you're open to it. I don't mind getting up early if we'll have a conversation like this. And I'm glad that we could meet halfway. But thank you so much for coming in and sharing space with us and honoring us with your presence.
It has been my greatest honor to be in this co-weaving, co-creation presence of the fullness and the wholeness of your being, and for all the sharings that you've done. Thank you for allowing me to be here and to give expression to what is moving through all my bodies of being, so to speak. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you very much, and thank you for your service. And I will see you. I will see you the next time. I'll reach out to you, and if something happens, I'm either going to see you on this side, the other side, or both, which is really one and the same thing. You take care. All right. Thank you so much.
Much love.
All right. You take
Bye.
care. Bye-bye. Thank you, everybody. Take care. See you a little bit later today. We'll be back on a couple more times.